Welcome back. Our captain of industry is Jay Ireland. He's the CEO and president of General Electric Africa. Mr. Ireland, let's touch on the energy space. We've got a lot of negativity when it comes to nuclear on a global level because of the incident at Fukushima, but some say that it could actually be a solution for Africa's energy needs. Would you agree with that, and are you willing to dabble within the space in Africa?
I would think probably initially not. I think number one, it takes a long time, and the needs of many of the other African countries in the area of power or electricity are huge, and they need power quickly to really expand. And so I would say that again, the mix of products that are out there from a power generation standpoint, of whether they be natural gas-fired turbines, hydro plants, wind, as well as diesel. Diesel's part of the solution as well. All those are part of that, and I think the critical need is to get power as quickly as they can. I think there's a lot of nuances to nuclear development along political, social, economic, security, etc. So I think it'll be a little while probably before other countries look at it.
Do you think that the negativity that surrounds the nuclear energy space is going to dissipate as memory fades? Takes hold and we forget.
It took a long time. 3 Mile Island was an issue, I don't know, 30 years ago, and took a long time, and now the Fukushima incident. I think it'll take time to reestablish the credibility and all. I think the German government has made a big play on taking nuclear out of their grid. So I think it's gonna be an issue. However, it's a very good form of power. It's economical, etc. So the French are big into it. A lot of countries are. So I think it'll continue to be a viable solution.
From a sector perspective, we know that you operate within water treatment plants, the oil and gas industry. You also have quite a big play with regards to the healthcare industry in Africa. Where do you think the biggest growth potential lies in Africa?
Probably the energy sector initially. I mean, from a standpoint of mainly because of the size of what's needed, and I think that'll be across. Our energy sector supports a lot. There's a lot of power needs in the oil and gas industries that we provide directly with smaller turbines that are right at the sites. Obviously, the grid, which we talked about, the electrical grids in each country is a big deal as they continue to expand. But those deals tend to be bigger. They tend to be a little more complicated because you have to deal with financing and tying in a bunch of partners, etc. I think healthcare is going to be a big area, and I think as we see a lot of the focus on healthcare moving away from primary issues, meaning mostly malaria, diarrheal, AIDS, and moving up, if you will, to concerns around diabetes, cancers, etc. You're going to see a lot more growth, I think, in hospitals and in the areas that we tend to be in, our diagnostic imaging equipment and so on. So I think that'll also be a big one as well.
General Electric currently employs 1,500 people on the African continent. Give us an indication of the mix with regards to Africans being employed by General Electric, given the fact that there has been a very big focus on US executives being deployed within emerging markets.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what the mix is. I would say it's probably, we may have 30 expats out of that, so it's not a lot. However, they tend to be on the higher end. We have definitely got to do more and more employment of local, whatever country we're in, of Africans. Now, one of the things that's very interesting is the diaspora that's around the world, and I'll speak for our company initially. When we announced that we were coming in Africa with this new organization, the responses that we got from a lot of people that were African-born to come back has been pretty overwhelming, actually. And so we're very excited about that. And I've just hired, of my staff that I've just hired, I've got one person coming back to Ghana. I got the CFOs coming back to Kenya. We've got someone coming back from South Africa to South Africa. So there's a lot of interest in that. So we plan to take advantage of that. But we're also going to be, the other thing that we've done is worked with local universities in a number of countries and developing training. We're going to have our training programs here in Africa, no different than we have in the States or Europe or Asia, where we'll take local students that have graduated from university and then bring them into our leadership training programs and bring them up through that capability. We just established some in Kenya with a business school there where we have 6 interns, and they've been working with us, and we'll be hiring a few of them as we go forward. So it's from both top and bottom.
Do you think that there's a lack of skill on the African continent given the quality of education?
I think education is a key thing that has to improve across all levels, and skill development tied into that is important. However, there's a tremendous amount of skilled capability that are Africans that are not on the continent. You have more Ghanaian doctors in New York than you have in Ghana. You have 25,000, I think, number of Nigerian doctors that are outside of Nigeria. If we could bring those people back into their countries, then all of a sudden, in the healthcare industry at least, you'd have a tremendous increase in capability. So, I mean, I think it's a combination of training people here, but at the same point in time, people that have been trained elsewhere, have them come back as well.
We've established that you've dabbled in many industries within General Electric, but one very interesting deployment was when you operated in West Germany at the height of the Cold War.
Yeah.
As a young man.
Yeah, I started my career, I guess, in Germany, and the height of the Cold War, and I was in the field artillery in the Army.
And how did that change your leadership style, if at all, today?
Oh, that was probably the most important thing. You're a young kid coming out of school, and I had my non-commissioned officers and enlisted guys a lot of them were vets from Vietnam, and they weren't going to listen to me just because I had a couple of gold bars on my shoulder. So I spent a lot of time working a leadership style, if you will, of being collaborative and working with them from the standpoint of making sure that they felt as we were a team. And so I thought that that's probably helped me the most. And dealing with issues that you deal with there, you don't see that in the business world. It's more life issues. It's more, the ramifications are a little more serious than, whether or not you miss a quarter, or a deadline. And so I think that was really helpful at a very young age. So, and it took me probably, I'd say 10 to 15 years to get the same level of leadership responsibility in GE that I had as a second lieutenant in the Army. So it was as far as size of people, number of people, and all.
Clearly very tough lessons that you learned during the Cold War, but what kind of lessons did you learn within the boardroom, within the corporate environment?
Coming out of the Army, you mean, or just in
just
total?
In corporate, at General Electric, are you talking about missing a quarter? How many quarters have you missed, and how did you feel when you did miss a quarter?
Well, I think part of the thing is, one of the things is, you always want to have, some failures as you go through, because it helps you grow. I mean, there are a few battle scars here and there are important from a standpoint of understanding, how you deal with issues. And I think people that fly all the way through without any issues, when it hits them later in life, it's like, whoa, now what do I do? And so I think it's a combination of self-confidence and capability from that standpoint. Through the number of different industries I've been in, we've had a number of issues from a standpoint of whether it's, you don't make what the plan was for the quarter, you have a product delay, you have customer issues with quality. All these things can really impact, how you're perceived and how you react to them. So that's the key, is how you really react to all of that.
In hindsight, is there anything that you would change?
Well, I think if I go back into, I'll do my television time when I was at NBC running the television stations and our Telemundo network. I think we could have been a lot more aggressive in the online space, and we did look at a lot of things and did improve our capability, but we probably should have been a little bit more aggressive around that and really expanding our presence, because there was a real value in having a local presence of information and knowledge. And you've got Craigslist, you've got Google search. You got a lot of things that are out there now that, you know, we kind of have I always felt we had a first mover advantage.
Yeah.
And I probably wasn't bold enough with my boss on really pushing through some acquisitions and things. So I learned, you know, and that's one of the things that coming here in Africa for personally is, you know, I'm going to be internally a lot more forceful than I have been in the past, probably.
General Electric in many ways is viewed as a corporate barometer, and I'm sure you've heard this many times because General Electric survived the Great Depression in the 1930s, the energy crisis in the 1970s, the financial crisis of 2008. How should corporates adapt to the cyclical nature of the economic environment?
Yep, I think, you know, one of the aspects that I think is most important about GE is that we've been able to go through these cycles over 120 plus years. And part of it is because we've been able to adapt and be flexible about the businesses we're in. If you look at I'll just talk about the last 10 years. If you look at the portfolio we were in 2000 versus where we are today, you know, we have a whole different, and we're geared more to what the future is going to. The same thing happened in 1990s and in the 80s. And so when I joined the company, I always make a joke. I said, you know, actually every business that I've been in has been sold. So all the businesses that I've been in are no longer part of the company. But that's the adaptive nature of the company. You know, we were in the plastics business for a long time. We were one of the pioneers. But it was time to get out. We were able to you know, get out of that. I was in the mobile radio business. You know, NBC, we just did a change with Comcast. So I mean, those are the kind of things I think for companies they have to make sure they adapt and they continue to grow and react to whatever the environment is that they're in.
Many companies, in a sense, are very reactive as opposed to being proactive. Do you think that General Electric has room to be more proactive than before?
No, I think we have been proactive. I think we've been. I mentioned earlier did this focus on eco-imagination of $5 billion of investment in the last 5 years. We're going to do another 5 to 10 over the next decade. We've done the same thing in health. We've got a program called Health Imagination, which, you know, we've developed. We're putting $1 billion into that. Again, not just from our products, but also developing healthy capabilities in our employees and workplaces, and with our customers and communities. So I think it's focusing in going forward on things. And sometimes when you're doing it, it doesn't seem like you're ahead of the game. It seems like, why are we doing that? But in reality, it, you know, continues to work. So I think we've been okay on that.
Mr. Island, thank you very much for joining us. Great to have you on the program. Well, that was our Captain of Industry tonight, Jay Island, the President and CEO of General Electric Africa.